If there's one thing that everyone says about the Nintendo 64 is that there weren't enough fighting games. Sure, many developers tried. We had everything from poor Mortal Kombat ports to great entries into series like Killer Instinct. It doesn't help that the N64 controller is just not laid out to work with the fighting game genre. When people say to me the N64 doesn't have enough fighting games, I say they are right. But whilst it didn't have enough fighting games, it arguably has one of the very best ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Was developed by HAL Laboratories during 1998. What is most interesting about the game is that it didn't start out life as a Nintendo game at all. You see, Masahiro Sakurai and Satoru Iwata created a prototype fighting game in their free time entitled Kakuto Gemu Ryu. And yes, I do apologise for my Japanese pronunciation, and for those interested, this translates to Dragon King the fighting game. It's commonplace now for game studios to have Freestyle Fridays. On Friday of each week or once a month, they get to work on their own projects and ideas to help prevent burnout, especially when working on longer projects, and also to come up with interesting and new game mechanics. The working title of Super Smash Bros. Was simply 4-player Battle Royale. In interviews, Iwata said that he was driven by the desire to create a 4-player fighting game which worked well with the N64 analog stick. Sakurai wanted to offer an alternative to fighting games which were crowding the market, and to make a fighting game which was different every time you play it. Anyway, this is starting to sound more and more like one of my beta project episodes, so cutting to the chase, Nintendo saw the prototype and gave HAL permission to use Nintendo characters and environments, and this led to the creation of Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Is unlike any fighting game you may have played before. It doesn't rely on complex button presses or ridiculously long combos. Like the name suggests, it's all about smashing your way through a battle. Let's dive right into the gameplay. To start with, there are 8 classic Nintendo characters to choose from, and adding longevity to the game, there are also 4 more to unlock. There are 9 beautiful famous Nintendo locations to battle on, including Hyrule Castle, Planet Zebes, Star Fox's Arwing, and many more. All fighting takes place on a 2D landscape, but the graphics are beautifully created in 3D. All characters and stages have their own unique abilities. Mario has his famous fireball, Link has his sword and boomerang, and Donkey Kong has his earth-shaking punches. Super Smash Bros. Wants you to experiment with characters as they all play differently, and finding a character which suits your playstyle is all part of the fun. Now, Super Smash Bros. Doesn't play like a classic fighting game. There are no life bars to be seen here. Instead, you are presented with a percentage bar, and the more damage you take, the easier it is for an opponent to smash you out of the arena or off the edge of the screen until your death. This unique gameplay style adds a lot of depth to the game. There's nothing more fun than having to chase an opponent whose meter is sky high, and they're just one hit away from being blown away. It also works the other way around, as if you're knocked off the edge of a stage, you'll be jumping and using special moves to try and bring yourself back into the game. Scattered throughout each level are also special items and weapons which you can pick up, and they all have special abilities such as Mario's hammer, which sends you into a retro frenzy, swinging at anything and everything you come into contact with. There are even Pokeballs, which when activated release a Pokémon who will go on a rampage causing damage. These add a sense of tactics to the game, as knowing which items or weapons work with your game in the situation is really the key to getting through some of the harder or longer battles. Now, with the characters having a small moveset, you may think this game has limited appeal, but you couldn't be further from the truth. The game is simple to learn, but very difficult to master. Now, the one-player game leads you through a series of matches from 1 vs 1 affairs to 2v2, and even battling giant enemies in a 3-on-1 match, or having to defeat the same opponent countless times in a marathon style. The single-player mode is fun, but this game was built to be a 4-player battle affair, and this is where the game really shines. Because the controls are so simple, it's easy for anyone to pick up and play Super Smash Bros. This game goes down as one of the best examples of how to do a multiplayer game on the N64. There are hours of fun to be had just sitting with friends or family. Because of the many game modes, you can choose to gang up in teams or duke it out in an all-against-all brawl. Visually, Super Smash Bros. Is beautiful, but it wasn't groundbreaking at the time. The characters are low polygon, and when the camera zooms in, you can start to see some minor flaws. Don't get me wrong though, the nostalgia factor will give you rosy tinted eyes when looking at the game, and the characters are all animated well. Very importantly, the frame rate is also razor sharp, and even with 4 players causing carnage on screen, you'll rarely see any slowdown at all. And finally, the game sounds incredible. The music for each of the stages has all been perfectly implemented to make you feel that you're battling in the actual game. The sound effects set is also one of the best found on any N64 game. Every character, environment, weapon and block sounds exactly like it should, and this even extends to the Pokémon which you release from the Pokeballs. There are some minor differences between the Japanese release and the Western one. For instance, in the Japanese version the punches sound a lot more powerful, and there's also a lightsaber noise which was removed to steer clear of any copyright from Lucasfilm, no doubt. One of my favourite minor details was the crowd chants when you get on a winning streak and it really starts to pump you up. The expansion pack is not supported, but the Rumble pack is, and I think it's one of the essential games to use it with. Feeling the feedback when you dish out punishment is very satisfying, and even when you're being ganged up on by a group of Kirbys, the feedback really adds a sense of polish to the overall experience. Now, whether you played a slightly superior Japanese version of the game or the widely available Western release, Super Smash Bros. Is quite simply one of the best games on the Nintendo 64. There may not be a wide array of fighting games on the console, but when Super Smash Bros. Is this good, who needs anything else? So how do you remember Super Smash Bros? Did you have countless hours playing it with friends huddled around your TV set, or do you still play it to this day online using the latest Project 64 emulator? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and thumbs up the video if you've enjoyed this review. Until next time.